I guess we could begin this discussion by saying, you are what you eat. So, everybody has to eat. But the question is, what to eat? And this is crucial for maintaining health. Now, we're going to discuss this issue from the point of view of yoga. But first, we're going to define what is yoga. Now, this is the problem. When you have a discussion, you have to define the terms that you're using so that everyone knows from what position you're coming. So, what is the definition of yoga? Now, because we are involved in Krishna consciousness, we have to depend on what's called Shastra, or scriptural references made by bona fide devotees or by Krishna himself. So the most bona fide scripture that we know of that can include other scriptures also that validate the same point. So, God's revelations have come through at different times, different places, and for humanity. So you have the Torah, you have the Bible, the New Testament, the Bible, you have the Quran, but before those, and even before the Buddhist scriptures, you have the Vedic scriptures, which are not calculated in terms of thousands of years, but in terms of millions and millions of years. Like, for example, the first time the Bhagavad Gita was spoken was over 120 million years ago. So these Vedic literatures have been extant in this universe for millions of years. And in the Bhagavad Gita, which was first spoken, like I said, over 120 million years ago, Krishna says, Yoginam api sarve samad gatanantaratmana shadavam bhajate yomam same yukta tamo matak. He says, and of all yogis, the one with great faith, who always abides in me, thinks of me within himself, and renders transcendental loving service to me, he is the most intimately united with me in yoga, and is the highest of all. That is my opinion. So this is the 6th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, 47th verse. So in this 6th chapter, and up to the 6th chapter, Lord Krishna, who is the origin of all knowledge of yoga, has explained, let's say, 4 major categories of yoga. First of all, what does yoga mean in Sanskrit? It means connecting to God. So there are different ways of doing that, making that connection. There's what you call karma yoga, there's jnana yoga, there's ashtanga yoga, and there's bhakti yoga. And under each of those 4 categories, there are subcategories of yoga. But those are the 4 main headings. Karma yoga, which means engaging in ritual activities that can help a person nullify sins that are created by them and help them be elevated to higher planets in the universe, where the duration of life is much longer, where one is situated more in the mode of goodness. So there are 3 major modes of nature that regulate the activities of living entities: ignorance, passion, and goodness. So people in the modes of ignorance and passion, people in the mode of ignorance go down in the universe to hellish planets. People in the mode of passion remain mostly on the middle planets like the Earth. And people in the mode of goodness are elevated to higher planets in the material universe. They're still in the material universe. They're still under the influence of the three modes of material nature, but their duration of life and their material well-being is tremendously enhanced. It's much greater than on the Earth, and obviously much, much greater than on the hellish planets. So that's karma yoga with, and there's always some desire involved, a desire for a better condition, a better body, a better, let's say, destiny. Then there's jnana yoga, where one engages in developing knowledge, Vedic knowledge, to the point where they can discriminate between what is real and what is false, and they associate with what is real. What is real is eternal, what is false is temporary. When I say false, it's not false, but it's temporary. There's a difference between false and temporary. But if you put your faith completely in temporary things, that is false. However, what is temporary is all activities in the material world based on sense gratification, and all goals based on improving sense gratification. That's going to be temporary, because eventually one remains in a material body, and the material body is subject to birth, death, old age, and disease. It's not false. So the jnana yogi distinguishes between what is eternal and what is not eternal, and they attempt to liberate themselves from the whole cycle of birth and death through knowledge and through self-restraint. So that is jnana yoga. And some of those jnana yogis who are very strict can actually be liberated from the cycle of birth and death, but they merge into what's called the Brahman, the impersonal effulgence coming from the body of Krishna. And if they do not continue to progress spiritually, they'll fall down from that position and come back to the material world. Okay, and then there's Ashtanga yoga. Ashtanga yoga is mystical yoga in which one develops the siddhis, or yoga perfections, such as becoming smaller than the small, becoming so small that they can pass through walls and rock, or becoming so great that they can encompass, massive things, and or else becoming lighter than a feather so they can fly through the air, or they become. They develop different mystical powers. They're called yoga siddhis. And there's 8 yoga siddhis. The last one is they develop the ability to create an alternate universe. That's how powerful they can become with this mystical yoga, but it requires great austerity. And examples are like Durvasa Muni and people like that who develop tremendous mystical powers. However, all of those 3 types of yoga and all the subtitles of those 3 types are concerned with people who have some desire, either gross material desire or subtle material desire, and they want to satisfy that desire by these different types of yoga, although they somewhat connect with God through ritual performances, through cultivation of knowledge, or through cultivation of mystical powers. They don't achieve actual pure love of God because they have a personal motive. Bhakti yoga, on the other hand, is connecting to God with pure love and devotion, with no material goal in mind and no desire for anything in return. So Therefore, Krishna explains that Bhakti Yoga is the highest form of yoga. And he says, Yoginam api sarvesam mad gatanantaratmana. So, of all yogis, the one with great faith who always abides in me, thinks of me within himself, and renders transcendental loving service to me, he is the most intimately united with me in yoga, and is the highest of all. That is my opinion. Okay, so now we understand what is yoga. There are different levels of yoga. It's called the yoga ladder. And the four major, let's say, categories are karma yoga, jnana yoga, astanga yoga, and bhakti yoga. And then there are subtitles to those, each one of those categories, such as raja yoga, such as kriya yoga, etc. Hatha yoga, etc. Okay. Now that we know what yoga means, when we're talking about food, because we are what we eat, everything in the material world is regulated, as I said, by the three modes of material nature. There's goodness, passion, and ignorance. Now, of the three, goodness is the most, let's say, favorable for yoga, but all three of these modes condition a person to stay in the material world. Either you can stay as a first-class prisoner in the mode of goodness, or you can stay as a second-class prisoner in the mode of passion, or you can stay as a third-class prisoner in the mode of ignorance. However, through bhakti yoga, not through necessarily karma, jnana, or astanga yoga, but through bhakti yoga, in which one has no material desire, one only has pure desires to please spiritual master and Krishna. Through bhakti yoga, one can escape completely the cycle of birth, death, and come to eternal position permanently through devotional service, through loving service to the Lord with no material motive. So, but to help one attain that position, which is called Suddha Bhakti, pure goodness, as opposed to goodness, one must come at least to the mode of goodness, the material mode of goodness, and from there be elevated to pure goodness through the help of bona fide spiritual masters, Siksha and Diksha gurus, and of course through practice of pure devotional service. So we're going to talk today about coming to the mode of goodness in eating. And that is important for maintaining optimal health. And then we're going to have a lot more information about how to attain that optimal health. So this is explained in the 17th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, which is all about the divisions of faith. So faith is based on what you believe. Now, that is not the definition of faith in the Vedas, but that is the dictionary definition. Faith means what you put your faith in, or what you believe to be true. So there's faith in the mode of ignorance, there's faith in the mode of passion, and there's faith in the mode of goodness, and of course there's faith in pure goodness. So in the same way, the question of diet is divided into diet in the mode of ignorance, which of course brings one closer to death quickly. Diet in the mode of passion, which makes one, let's say, very strongly attached to sense gratification, which is the main motive of people in the mode of passion. As in pleasing their own senses, indulging themselves, they're seeing, they're hearing, they're tasting, they're touching, and all these sense perceptions are based on self-indulgence. And then foods in the mode of goodness that promote longevity and well-being, mental stability, etc. Okay. So, in the Bhagavad Gita, verse number 7, it says, even the food each person prefers is of three kinds, according to the three modes of material nature. The same is true of sacrifices, austerities, and charity. Now here are the distinctions between them. So in the explanation of this verse, His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada writes, those who can understand analytically what kind of performances are in what modes of material nature are actually wise. Those who consider all kinds of sacrifice or food or charity to be the same cannot discriminate, and they are foolish. There are missionary workers who advocate that one can do whatever he likes and attain perfection. But these foolish guides are not acting according to the direction of the scripture. They are manufacturing ways and misleading the people in general. Okay, so now begins a discussion about the food. It says, foods dear to those in a mode of goodness increase the duration of life, purify one's existence, and give strength, health, happiness, and satisfaction. Such foods are juicy, fatty, wholesome, and pleasing to the heart. So that is 17th chapter Bhagavad Gita, verse number 8. So this is what increases one's, it's called ojas, or the living force in the body. It supports it rather than subverts it. And then it says, foods that are too bitter, too sour, salty, hot, pungent, dry, and burning are dear to those in the mode of passion. Such foods cause distress, misery, and disease. And then number 3, food prepared more than 3 hours before being eaten, food that is tasteless, decomposed, and putrid, and food consisting of remnants and untouchable things is dear to those in the mode of darkness or ignorance. So now we're going to read the purport, and it says, the commentary by Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, His Divine Grace. The purpose of food is to increase the duration of life, purify the mind, and aid bodily strength. This is its only purpose. In the past, great authorities selected those foods that best aid health and increase life's duration, such as milk products, sugar, rice, wheat, fruits, and vegetables. So I can just hear the big sigh of utter, oh my God, I can't believe it, of people who are vegans. As soon as the first type of food mentioned was milk products. But this is milk from cows that are protected, that are never killed, and cows that are fed, grass-fed, that can roam around and eat nice, fresh, green grass full of chlorophyll and vitamins and minerals from soil that has been, cultured to produce healthy grass and healthy vegetables. Okay, and cows that are, above all, protected, so they're not fearful at all, and they're very kind and friendly and human with human beings, and human beings are very kind, friendly, and protective of the cows. Just like a mother who's milking, if she's in anxiety, it affects her milk. But a mother who's milking a child, and she is very peaceful and happy and protected by her family members, her husband, etc., there's a different quality of milk because of that peaceful and protective nature. Okay, so these foods are dear to those in the mode of goodness. Milk products, sugar, rice, wheat, fruits, and vegetables. When it says sugar, it's unprocessed sugar, such as what's called cooked down sugarcane juice, or honey, or agave nectar, but it has to be not processed. So honey directly from the hive that hasn't been heated over the temperature of the hive, and raw sugars that are not processed, such as cooked down sugarcane juice, etc. And then rice and wheat, fruits and vegetables, all these are things that are in their natural form that haven't been processed. These foods are very dear to those in the mode of goodness. Some other foods, such as baked corn and molasses, while not very palatable in themselves, can be made pleasant when mixed with milk or other foods. They are then in the mode of goodness. And milk also has to be unprocessed, raw milk. Or, once you get the raw milk, you can heat it up and sort of pasteurize it yourself if you want to, or you can drink it directly. But all these things have to be non-processed. They are then in the mode of goodness. All these foods are pure by nature. They are quite distinct from untouchable things like meat and liquor. Fatty foods are mentioned in the 8th verse, have no connection with animal fat obtained by slaughter. Animal fat is available in the form of milk, which is the most wonderful of all foods. Milk, butter, cheese, and similar products give animal fat in a form which rules out any need for the killing of the innocent creatures. It is only through brute mentality that this killing goes on. The civilized method of obtaining needed fat is by milk. Slaughter is the way of subhumans. Protein is amply available through split peas, dal, or lentils, and beans, whole wheat, etc. Foods in the mode of passion are bitter, too salty, or too hot, or overly mixed with red pepper, cause misery by reducing the mucus in the stomach, leading to disease. Very important point. Foods in the mode of ignorance or darkness are essentially those that are not fresh. Any food cooked more than 3 hours before it is eaten, except prasadam, or food offered to the Lord, is considered to be in the mode of darkness, because they are decomposing. Such foods give a bad odor, which often attracts people in this mode, but repulses those in the mode of goodness. Remnants of food may be eaten only when they are part of a meal that was first offered to the Supreme Lord, or first eaten by saintly persons, especially the spiritual master. Otherwise, the remnants of food are considered to be in the mode of darkness, and they increase the infection or disease. Such foodstuffs, although very palatable to persons in the mode of darkness, are neither liked nor even touched by those in the mode of goodness. The best food is the remnants of what is offered to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In Bhagavad Gita, the Supreme Lord says that he accepts preparations of vegetables, flour, and milk when offered with devotion. Or when it says flour, again, unprocessed flour. Flour that's not denatured, such as white flour, etc. Patram pushpam phalam toyam. This is a verse from the 9th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, verse 26. Of course, devotion, and where Krishna says, offer me with love and devotion a leaf, water, fruit, and flour, and I will accept it. So he doesn't mention meat or any type of flesh food. Of course, devotion and love are the chief things which the Supreme Personality of Godhead accepts. So the entire Vedic culture is aiming toward all acts of love and devotion for God. That is the basis of every activity and the motivation of every activity. So that means that one has a pure consciousness when they're cooking food and offering food, and have the consciousness of love with no admixture or no mixture of envy, jealousy, resentment, fear, anger, illusion, etc. So one must have a pure consciousness in order to offer food to God with love and devotion. And that food, when accepted by God, becomes a transcendental substance. It's no longer ordinary vegetables, fruits, etc. It becomes a transformative, transcendental substance called prasadam, the pure mercy of the Lord. This is the highest threshold of nutrition, eating the mercy of God that's purifying in every aspect of the body, the gross body and the subtle body, and returning the soul to its original nature of not being conditioned by the modes of material nature. The best food is the remnants of what is offered to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In Bhagavad Gita, the Supreme Lord says that he accepts preparations of vegetables, flour, and milk when offered with devotion. Patram pushpam phalam tuyam. Of course, devotion and love are the chief things which the Supreme Personality of Godhead accepts. But it is also mentioned that the prasadam, the sanctified food, should be prepared in a particular way. Any food prepared by the injunctions of the scriptures and offered to the Supreme Personality of Godhead can be taken even if prepared long, long ago, because such food is transcendental. Therefore, to make food antiseptic, eatable, and palatable for all persons, one should offer food to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So, making something mundane transcendental, meaning above the influence of the material world, that is the process of Krishna consciousness, of loving devotion, where all offerings are made with love and devotion to the Lord, of ordinary things like vegetables, fruits, milk, etc. And then they're transformed, and when the Lord accepts the offering, into something that's transcendental, that's transformative for the living entity, that transforms the quality of the body and the mind and the intelligence, and brings all these things in connection to God and to our eternal soul. Okay, so now we're going to go to the second part of the discussion, and that is, be healthy and stay happy. If you're healthy, by the way, I always say the proverb, real wealth is health. Because you could be the richest person in the world and not be in good health, and you would be unfortunate and miserable. But you could be very healthy, and even though you're poor, you're still happy and satisfied with life. And another principle that I always meditate on, and that is, one does not need a lot of things to be happy. One only needs a few things that are extremely good and consistently good and to be happy. So we don't have to have a smorgasbord, in other words, a huge collection of different types of foods to be happy. If we just have a few really, really good things, then we'll be happy and satisfied. So now we're going to talk about 5 points to ultimate health. And it's based on the ancient wisdom of the Bhagavad Gita, which says, the Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam, which says, life's desire should never be directed towards sense gratification. One should desire only a healthy life or self-preservation. Since a human being is meant for inquiry about the absolute truth, nothing else should be the goal of one's works. Kamasya nendriya pritir labo jivata yavata jivasya tattva jigyasa narto yascheha karma bihi. This is the Srimad Bhagavatam, 1st canto, 2nd verse, 2nd chapter, 10th verse. Life's desire should never be directed towards sense gratification, so selfish self-indulgence. One should desire only a healthy life or self-preservation. Since a human being is meant for inquiry about the absolute truth, nothing else should be the goal of one's works. So you'll see that everyone in life, unless they're crazy, works in such a way and eats in such a way for self-preservation. In other words, to have a healthy, productive life, not for self-destruction. So step number 1 for optimal health is lifestyle reorganization. And the Vedic lifestyle is ideal for maintaining health, vitality, and a positive attitude based on tangible spiritual enlightenment. The following list of regulated daily practices exemplifies the Vedic lifestyle. 1. Early to bed, early to rise makes a person healthy, wealthy, and wise. Sleep before 10 p.m. at night and wake up 1.5 hours before sunrise. Very important to get your your bodily functions in sync with nature. When the sun goes down, it means something. When the sun comes up, it means something. So we should go to bed no later than 10 o'clock at night. And in summertime, actually, the sun is up later, up until 10. And in wintertime, the sun sets earlier. So if we follow the rising and setting of the sun in different seasons of the year, we'll be healthy. Go to bed when the sun goes down. Wake up 1.5 hours before the sun rises. Second point, eating at regulated times. It takes 4 hours at least to digest food. If one snacks between meals, the digestive process is disrupted, causing health problems like acid reflux, constipation, colorectal cancer, irritable bowel syndrome, ulcerative colitis, and dysentery. The last meal should be before 6 p.m. so that one can finish the digestion by 10 p.m. at night. Going to bed with a full stomach may inhibit restorative sleep and affect brain health. After food is digested, one can experience a very restful and rejuvenating sleep for 6 hours and wake up refreshed and energized. Point number 3 for lifestyle reorganization. Followers of the Vedas fast at least 2 days a month, called Ekadasi. Eka means 1 and das means 10. So 11 days after the full moon and 11 days after the new moon. These 2 days are very auspicious for spiritual advancement and health. There are additional fast days for auspicious holy holidays. If one calculates all the fast days for Vedic Dharma, there are over 31 every year. The benefits derived from fasting follow. Promotes blood sugar control by reducing insulin resistance, better health by fighting inflammation, heart health by improving blood pressure, triglycerides, and cholesterol levels, which may improve brain function and prevent degenerative disorders, weight loss by limiting calorie intake and boosting metabolism, increases growth hormone secretion, which is vital for growth, metabolism, and muscle strength, and may delay aging and extend longevity. Right? So that's fasting. On certain days of the year, these are holy days, like Krishna's appearance day, etc., or Lent, according to Christianity, or Ramadan, according to Islam, and in Buddhism also they have their fast days. So you see, every religion has these principles inherent in them as part of their body of knowledge. Whether people will follow or not, that's the other question. Like, for example, in Ramadan, the idea is not that you don't eat all day and you gouge yourself at night. That's not following Ramadan. Ramadan is a time where you diminish eating, mating, and eating, sleeping, and mating, and increase prayer and contemplation of your relationship with God. And the same with Lent, and the same with Ekadasi and holy days, fasting in Vedic Dharma. Okay, so next point. Waking up early in the morning at Brahma Muhurta, 1.5 hours before sunrise. This is very good for physical and spiritual health because the very early morning hours are ideal for spiritual endeavors such as mantra meditation or prayer, study, assisting in morning worship at the temple, hearing uplifting lectures on Vedic philosophy from the Bhagavad Gita, and engaging other acts of devotional service. So those wee morning hours are the most propitious for making spiritual advancement, for going deep into your meditative state of focusing your attention on God and your eternal relationship with God, and with understanding more deeply your relationship to the material world, relationship to God, relationship to other living entities, etc. Next point. Bathing at least twice a day, 3 times is ideal. Maintaining good physical and mental hygiene by following 4 do's and 4 don'ts. No meat, fish, poultry, or eggs. No intoxication, including coffee and tea. No illicit sex, meaning no sex outside of marriage. And in marriage, only for procreation. No gambling or philosophical speculation. Philosophical speculation means there's something you don't understand, but you make up something based on your own fertile brain. And that's usually wrong and misleading. One replaces the previous 4 degrading activities with 4 enlightening habits, such as eating only sanctified food, prasadam, food that's offered first, vegetarian food prepared and offered to Lord Krishna or offered to God. The proper human diet consists of food grains, beans, and lentils, vegetables, fruits, nuts, milk, and raw honey or cooked down sugarcane juice. Daily hearing and discussing Vedic knowledge presented in the Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam texts, or the scripture of your religion. And the proper human diet consists of food, grains, beans, chanting, and then also praying in the morning and chanting the great mantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. The 3 words, Hare Krishna and Rama, Hare Krishna and Rama, when chanted together in the mantra, confer the meaning, O dear Radha and Krishna, please protect me so that I may engage always in your service. So this mantra is not asking for anything material. It's only asking for the mercy of the Lord, for protection, so that one can always engage in the service of the Lord. The next point. Drinking purified water free of fluoride, chlorine, and other contaminants. Most water today is contaminated in the major cities of the world. And next point, avoiding all foods containing pesticides, preservatives, colors, etc. Okay, so that's step 1, lifestyle reorganization. Step 2, learn the value of preserving vital fluids. Children should be taught after the age of 5 how to restrain the senses and the mind. As a child grows, the body produces vital fluids, sperm in males and vital fluids in women. If a child is taught to be saintly, the boy's semen rises to the brain, and the girl conserves her vital fluids for enhanced health and growth. Wasting semen and vital fluids decreases intelligence, vitality, causes premature old age, loss of memory, a disturbed mind, impotence, diseases of the heart, lungs, eyes, and delicate organs of the body. Conserving semen and vital fluids will promote physical growth, strength, intelligence, and the ability to understand higher order spirituality. Chyle is produced in the intestines after the intake of the food. It is a milky fluid consisting of an emulsion of lymph and triglyceride fat taken up by the lacteals from food in the intestine. Chyle passes into the veins by the thoracic duct and mixes with blood. It helps to produce blood in the bone marrow, which produces flesh. From flesh, fat is produced, and then bones are formed. The marrow of the bones also produces semen, which is essential to maintain life. Okay, let me close my phone here. Sorry. I don't... Okay. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, also known as Srila Prabhupada, writes, "The influence of the atomic soul can be spread all over a particular body. According to the Mundaka Upanishad, this atomic soul is situated in the heart of every living entity. And because the measurement of the atomic soul is beyond the power of appreciation of the material scientist, in other words, it's 1/10,000th the tip of a hair, which means it's smaller than an atom, some of them assert foolishly, meaning the material scientists, that there is no soul. The individual atomic soul is definitely there in the heart, along with the super soul, or the presence of God as the super soul. And thus all the energies of bodily movement are emanating from this part of the body, meaning the heart, where the soul is and super soul are present. The corpuscles which carry the oxygen from the lungs gather energy from the soul. When the soul passes away from this position, the activity of the blood generating fusion ceases. Medical science, accepting the importance of the red corpuscles, medical science accepts the importance of the red corpuscles, but it cannot ascertain that the source of the energy is the soul. Medical science, however, does admit that the heart is the seat of all energies of the body." And then another quote by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada: "Such atomic particles of spirit," meaning the soul, "are compared to the sunshine molecules. In the sunshine there are innumerable radiant molecules. Similarly, the fragmental parts of the Supreme Lord are atomic sparks of rays of the Supreme Lord, called by the name Prabha, or superior energy. So whether one follows the Vedic knowledge or modern science, one cannot deny the existence of the spirit soul in the body, and the science of the soul is explicitly explained in the Bhagavad Gita by the Personality of Godhead Himself." This is a quote from Bhagavad Gita, 2nd chapter, 17th verse in the purport. Now we continue. "Blood may be produced in the bone marrow, as the modern scientists claim, but the energizing effect of the blood happens when it comes in contact with the heart, with the individual jiva soul, the living entity, and the super soul, Lord Krishna. This explains why modern scientists have not been able to produce real blood in a laboratory. They produce facsimiles of blood that don't have the full, let's say, potency of blood, but they cannot produce real blood. They have made a synthetic blood that can only mimic one function of blood, which is carry oxygen. Until they understand the functioning of the soul and the super soul in the body, they will remain bewildered in their material scientific attempts to mimic God." The following is a quote from Practice of Brahmacharya, a celibate student, by Swami Shivananda Saraswati. "Semen is the quintessence of food or blood. 1 drop of semen is manufactured out of 40 drops of blood, according to modern medical science. According to Ayurveda, it is elaborated out of 80 drops of blood. The 2 tests or seeds that are located in the scrotal bag are called the secretory glands. The cells of these tests have been endowed with the peculiar property of secreting semen from the blood, such as bees collect honey in the honeycomb, drop by drop. So also the cells of the tests collect semen drop by drop from the blood. Then this fluid is taken up by the 2 ducts or tubes to the vesiculae seminalis. Under excitement, it is, in other words, you're talking about the tubes to the genitals. Under excitement, it is thrown out by special ducts called ejaculatory ducts into the urethra tube from the bladder, extending through the entire penis, where it is mixed with the prostatic juice. Semen is found in a subtle state in all cells of the body, just as sugar is all-pervading in the sugarcane, butter in milk. So also semen is pervading the whole body. Just as the buttermilk is thin after the butter is removed, so also semen is thin by its wastage. The more the wastage of semen, the more is the weakness in the body. In the Yoga Shastras it is said, Maranam bindu patanat, jivanam bindu rakshanat. Falling of semen brings death. Preservation of semen gives life. Semen is the real vitality in men. It is the hidden treasure in man. It imparts brahmatejas, the glow to the face and strength to the intellect. So, preservation of vital fluids. Step 3, removing all toxic things from home. Now, this is a very long thing that I wrote, but the introduction is following. Otto Heinrich Warburg was a German physiologist, medical doctor, and Nobel laureate. He received the Nobel Prize in Physiology or Medicine in 1931 for his discovery of the nature and mode of action of the respiratory enzyme. Cellular respiration is an oxidative process helped by enzymes by which cells convert glucose, the most basic sugar produced by human digestion, to carbon dioxide, water, and adenosine triphosphate, or ATP, which nourishes the cells. Warburg hypothesized that cancer growth is caused by tumor cells generating energy such as adenosine triphosphate, mainly by anaerobic or oxygen-free breakdown of glucose, known as fermentation or anaerobic respiration. The cancer cells are not subject to being killed off at intervals like regular, healthy cells. Their resistance to being killed and their ability to get energy by fermentation makes them grow very fast and eventually cause death by malnutrition and organ degeneration of a person. So you see, there's a reverse process here. The normal way of breaking down glucose is through oxidation. However, cancer caused by tumor cells generating energy mainly by fermentation. So the cancer cells get their energy by fermentation, and healthy cells get their energy by oxidation. The question may be asked, what degenerates or mutates healthy cells into cancer cells? Warburg's answer was human beings are exposed to toxic materials such as carcinogens through radiation, chemicals, and diet. Modern scientists have focused more on hereditary genetic mutation passed on from one generation to another. That's their base explanation of cancer. Thus, most of the research and enormous money for it was wasted in the last 50, 60 years trying to prove that hereditary mutated genes are the cause of cancer, and the cure is to either destroy or change the DNA of the cells. However, Warburg's theory is much more realistic. He says that the mutation of healthy cells into cancer cells in human beings is caused by toxic materials such as carcinogens through radiation, chemicals, and diet. So all the research that's been done on cancer is based on a false premise. That's why they keep collecting more and more money every year for cancer research. But if we accept Warburg's point of view that people in modern life are exposed to carcinogenic materials, basically inorganic chemicals that are produced and manufactured in laboratories and factories, and they're all pervasive nowadays. And then we'll go through a quick list of those things. So carcinogens through radiation, chemicals, and diet. The following is a long list of potentially dangerous carcinogenic substances that people are exposed to every day in modern society. So now I'm not going to go through the whole list, but you'll get an idea by the few that I'm going to read. Non-stick cookware. Polytetrafluoroethylene, the coating that makes products non-stick, releases gases when heated, all of which have been linked to putting humans at higher risk for cancer and other harmful health effects. Now, I don't want to scare you by reading this list, but you're going to get shocked when you hear this list of things, because many of these things are in your house right now, and you're using them every day. Flea and tick products. Pets' flea and tick products may save your pooch from unwanted bites, but due to pesticides, it can lead to nerve damage and more. Mothballs, naphthalene, found in mothballs and products alike, can destroy red blood cells and has been proven to cause cancer in animals. Air fresheners. Toxins found in air fresheners can accumulate in the body over time. According to the Natural Resources Defense Council, those toxins may affect hormones and reproductive health, especially in children. Oven cleaner. Many of these cleaners contain corrosive alkalis, which can have grave effects on your gastrointestinal tract and respiratory system if inhaled or ingested. Furniture polish and stain. Non-vegetable oil-based stains and polishes are not only extremely flammable, but contain chemicals, phenol and nitrobenzene, which can be absorbed by your skin and can cause skin cancer. Toilet bowl cleaner. The corrosive ingredients that make acidic toilet bowl cleaners clean so well are the same ingredients that can cause burns in skin and eyes. Gas space heaters. Gas-powered anything releases toxins, and using them indoors is extremely dangerous and can lead to carbon monoxide poisoning, a condition that presents very little warning symptoms. Cleaning solutions. As the biggest offender on the list and the most commonly used, it's no secret household cleaners contain hazardous toxins. What's most concerning is it's not required for cleaners to list their ingredients on the bottle, leaving consumers in the dark, even those claiming to be green or natural. Antibacterial soaps. Antibacterial soaps contain ingredients like triclosan and trichlorocarbon. According to FDA, it can be linked to creating antibiotic-resistant bacteria and is not biodegradable. Flaking paint. Homes built as recently as the late 70s can have interiors covered with lead-based paints, hazardous when the paint starts to flake and when it's time to repaint. Inhaling these particles can lead to lead poisoning. Okay, so you get an idea, and then of course asbestos and formaldehyde and wood that has been treated, and treated wood you make decks out of and so forth, and perfluorinated compounds and phthalates and diethyl phthalate, polybromated diphenyl ethers, and short-chain chlorinated paraffins, benzene, and so forth. All these things are toxic. Artificial food colors, which are in all children's cereals and candies, and yellow, number 5, food color, red dye, number 2, can cause cancer, blue, number 1, blue, number 2, red dye, number 3, yellow, number 6, and so forth. Natural green color, although it's natural. Okay, and then sweeteners, high fructose corn syrup, and I'm not explaining what they do to you, but they're all on this list of toxic ingredients. Aspartame, or low-calorie sweetener, caramelized sugar syrup, and potassium bromate, monosodium glutamate, or MSG, preservatives, sodium benzoate, sodium nitrite, sodium sulfite, sodium dioxide. All these things are in all kinds of foods that people are eating. Propylparaben, and then BHA or BHT, butylated hydroxyanisole, and butylated hydroxytoluene. And then products of processing fat, trans fat, and then extracts like rosemary extract, yeast extract, rice extract, roasted barley malt extract, altered fuel molecules for shelf stability. Trans fats are a form of unsaturated fat associated with a number of negative health effects. Artificial trans fat is created during hydrogenation, which converts liquid vegetable oils into semi-solid, partially hydrogenated oils. Trans fat can also be found naturally in meat and dairy. Eating trans fat increases levels of low-density lipoprotein, LDL, or bad cholesterol, especially the small, dense LDL particles that may be more damaging to arteries. Okay, so polyvinyl chloride, it's low-cost, lightweight, strong plastic. PVCs and lead, wood treatments, and halogenated flame retardants, cadmium, and then volatile organic product compounds that may be in man-made chemicals with low boiling point, resulting in large numbers of molecules vaporizing and filling the surrounding air, and so forth. So that's a very long list. I'm not going over all of them. And we're surrounded by these things in modern homes. And as long as we're exposed to these things, there's a strong chance of getting cancer. Heart attack is the number one killer in America, and cancer is number 2 killer in America. Okay, now step 4. Avoiding eating foods that are nutritionally depleted. Fruits, vegetables grown 50 or more years ago were much richer in vitamins and minerals than those purchased today. Modern intensive agricultural methods have depleted the topsoil of minerals. A group of researchers led by Donald Davis from the University of Texas at Austin's Department of Chemistry and Biochemistry published the results of their comparative study of the U.S. Department of Agricultural nutritional data from 1950 to 1999. Data of 43 vegetables and vegetables were compared. Their findings were published in the Journal of the American College of Nutrition in December 2004. They found verified declines in the amount of protein, calcium, phosphorus, iron, riboflavin, vitamin B2, and vitamin C over the past half century. Davis and his colleagues attributed the reduced nutritional content to the agricultural practices designed to improve traits, size, growth rate, pest resistance, for marketing purposes. They were not as concerned about the nutritional content. Other nutritional components like magnesium, zinc, and vitamin B6 and E were not studied in 1950, which were not studied in 1950, were not studied. There were other studies with similar comparative data. The Kushi Institute studied nutrient data from 1975 to 1997. Its researchers found that average calcium levels in 12 fresh vegetables dropped 27%, iron levels 37%, vitamin A levels 21%, and vitamin C levels 30%. Okay, so this is a problem. Our food is not nutrient dense today as it was previously. And it's due to the degeneration of the soil by growing massive amounts of one crop like corn, wheat, and other big money crops, soybeans, sugar beets, etc. And using NPK fertilizer, only nitrogen, potassium, and nitrogen, potassium, and I forget the third one. Okay. And then basically our fruits, vegetables, grains are grown in depleted soil. Now, what is the solution to this? Well, the vitamin industry has arisen as a solution to this, but that's also toxic. There's no such thing as taking a pill that's vitamin rich, because let's say you get vitamin B12 capsules or vitamin B6 capsules, or you get vitamin C capsules. All these capsules with a high percentage of one particular vitamin or mineral is not easily absorbed by the body. Basically, what you're doing is producing expensive urine, because most of it is excreted by the body, because it needs a whole plethora of vitamins to be able to digest. And if you just have a preponderance of one, then it's not metabolized easily by the body. Okay, so we see that we are in touch with toxic molecules, mostly inorganic molecules that are toxic. They're most or all of them are produced in laboratories and factories. And then modern agricultural practices depletes the soil of nutrients. So we're not eating nutrient-dense food. We're eating nutrient-depleted food. And many of those foods that we eat are processed, which further depletes the vitamin and mineral content. And of course, white sugar is very detrimental for health. And too much denatured salt, like Morton salt, in which most of the minerals have been taken out. Then they feel guilty, and the government mandates they put a little bit of iodine back in. So all these products are processed, they're depleted, and they're not nutrient dense. Okay. So now, step number 5, eliminating eating all foods with altered molecules or genetically altered. So partially hydrogenated oils, chemically altered vegetable oils don't turn rancid as easily as non-hydrogenated fats, natural vegetable oils. They can withstand repeated heating without breaking down, and the process can turn a liquid oil into a solid, which allows for easier transportation and wider uses. Such solid fat was also much less expensive than many solid animal fats. Eating molecularly altered hydrogenated cooking oils are very detrimental for health because the body cannot identify the altered molecule, which ends up clogging your arteries. Cooking oils are hydrogenated in order for them to be shelf-stable for years. Normally, natural cooking oils will go rancid in 6 to 8 months. Therefore, oil merchants hired chemists to find a way to stop oils from becoming rancid. Chemists discovered that they could add hydrogen atoms to unsaturated fats by bubbling hydrogen gas through vegetable oil in the presence of a nickel catalyst. This was far more than a chemical curiosity. Partially hydrogenated oils don't turn rancid as easily as non-hydrogenated fats. They can withstand repeated heating without breaking down, and the process can turn a liquid into a solid, which allows for easier transportation and wider uses. Genetically altered grains and produce may prove to have unpredictable consequences with long-term use. Wait and judge from the result. So we see that these supermarket oils, cooking oils, are actually very dangerous for health. Okay, so these are 5 things to avoid to help us improve our, some of these things, lifestyle reorganization is not something we should avoid. Learning the value of preserving vital fluids is not something we should avoid, but we should practice. But then removing all toxic things from home, those things we should avoid, and then also avoiding eating foods that are nutritionally depleted, and then also eliminating eating all foods with altered molecules or genetically altered. Okay. Now the question is, what is an ideal diet? Well, the ideal diet is planned to sustain health by remaining mostly on the alkaline side, and it helps to build your immune system naturally. And so there are certain suggestions for doing this. Why do we say remain mostly on the alkaline side? Because an acidic diet is definitely promotes cancer. Cancer evolves in an oxygen-free, acidic environment. So when there's some problem with blood circulation in the body, so it depletes oxygen in a certain part of the body, and then if you have an acid diet, there's acidity all over the body. That's ideal conditions for cancer. So, to maintain an alkaline diet, point one is the 50-50 principle. That is, every meal should be 50% raw, 50% cooked. So then that means you have a big salad, or you have a large portion of the meal, or half the meal is raw, and the other half is cooked. And then number two, don't snack between meals. Give yourself at least 4 hours to digest food. And number three, don't mix proteins, carbohydrates, and sugars at the same meal. Why? Because if you mix, let's say you have a piece of meat, let's say mashed potatoes, and you have with gravy, and you have some canned or frozen cooked vegetables, and you have a lemon meringue pie and coffee. That is perfect diet for reducing your lifespan, remaining sick for most of your life, and having all kinds of digestive problems. So, therefore, it's much better to separate the proteins and carbohydrates and sugars. So how do you do that? Well, an example of a carbohydrate meal is, let's say you have organic grains such as rice or millet or quinoa or amaranth, and you have cooked vegetables sprinkled with flaxseed powder, and you have a large salad with organic sprouts and spinach and cucumbers, and grated daikon, radish, grated carrots, grated cabbage, tomatoes, celery, parsley, or cilantro, fresh lemon, juice, olive oil, and a little bit of sea salt or sea veggies. So there you have a large salad, you have some cooked vegetables, and you have a grain, organic grain, and maybe a baked potato. So that's an example of a carbohydrate meal. An example of a protein meal is you have lentil or bean soup, cooked vegetables, large salad, as above, and yogurt or tofu. Okay, so that is a protein meal. So you separate those by 4 hours. And if you have a sweet tooth, you don't want to mix the sweets with the proteins or the protein or carbohydrate meal, so you can eat them separately. But it should be natural sweets such as honey, unprocessed honey, or a cooked down sugarcane juice, and mixed with other things such as fruits or whatever that you want to make a dessert with. So breakfast diet, you can have oatmeal and cooked in raw milk or uh, from cows that are protected until death. It's called ahimsa milk, or cooked in pure water. And water should also always be filtered, and you should take out all the fluorine and whatever as much as you can, or you get well water from wells that have been tested to make sure they're not contaminated. And what we should avoid at breakfast are cold cereals and things that are manufactured rather than whole and wholesome, like oatmeal is a whole product. It's not been processed very much other than crushed. You can also eat the steel cut grain oats. That's the whole oat groat that's been cut into little pieces. Okay, so then you can also use molasses as a sweetener. It's all the good part of sugar that's been taken out to make white sugar. So all the good parts, and molasses contains vitamin B's and B vitamins and iron and other good things. So, or of course, raw honey and fruit. So, fresh fruits. So then, every day we should drink some fresh juices, apple, orange, carrot, grape, and also drink herbal tea, mixture of ginger, cinnamon, clove, maybe a dash of cayenne pepper and lemon, and you put some raw honey in it. Above all, avoid all meat, fish, eggs, all processed foods, fizzy sodas, energy drinks, and all the miracle supplements. And also, avoid the hydrogenated oils, alcoholic beverages, coffee, tea, and all meat, fish, poultry, eggs, processed white flour products, canned foods, TV dinners, and so forth. And avoid common table salt. Use only raw, unprocessed salt, and avoid white sugar consumption. Only natural sugars, like we said, honey and so forth. And whenever one experiences constipation, bloating, headache, cough, cold, or upset stomach, you should give your digestive tract a rest by going on a fresh juice fast for 2 or 3 days, and take the Ayurvedic blend Triphala and Trikatu. Triphala is the powder of 3 fruits, and Trikatu is the powder of 3 herbs, and that'll help maintain maximum health or recovery from ailments by bolstering the immune system. So there's selective fasting and using non-toxic natural herbs for health. So these are some suggestions for maintaining maximum health. And we discussed the Bhagavad Gita suggestions, and then suggestions given through practical experience to improve your body immunity through diet. So if there are any questions, you can type them in now, and I can try and answer them. Otherwise, thank you very much. And be careful what you eat, because you are what you eat. Any questions? Huh? Yeah. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna. Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Krishna Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Krishna Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Krishna Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare, Krishna Krishna, Krishna Hare Rama. Anything? No? No, Maharaj. Okay.